SEO Week is happening in New York this month, and we're going to be there, and we want you there too. Learn more about the conference, the speakers, and the topics happening April 28th through May 1st here on Edge of the Web.
Go! Your weekly digital marketing trends with industry trend-setting guests. Powered by your digital marketing pioneers, Site Strategics. This week's featured guests are Michael King and Garrett Sussman, covering the SEO Week Conference in New York, April 28th through May 1st. Now, here's your host, Erin Sparks.
Not all SEO conferences are the same. We've had some great experiences, but sometimes one comes along that is unique. There's an SEO conference coming up that looks to be one that we've never seen before. That's SEO Week in New York. 4 days, 40 plus speakers, and the tech's going to be unbelievable. We're going to unpack that conference for you today. You've got to get to New York at the end of the month. You do not want to miss this. Joining me on this podcast to talk about it is Garrett Sussman and Michael King. How are you guys doing today?
Fantastic. Great to be here.
Great.
Thanks, Aaron. This is awesome.
You are more than welcome, more than welcome. Just going to give some quick intros. Mike is the founder and CEO of iPullRank, and Garrett's the director of marketing over at iPullRank. We got some news, and not that, I mean, I'm sure our listeners have already heard about it over the months, but thank you for joining us today. We got to say, I heard about your conference, and I was floored whenever I heard what you were doing over there. So SEO Week is in New York. It's the next chapter of search, April 28th through May 1st in New York City, and Edge Media Studios is going to be there. Like I said, we got 40 plus industry speakers across technical, SEO, content, AI, vertical search, digital strategy, 30-minute power presentations sharing exclusive practical strategies to improve visibility rankings, traffic, and ROI. One of a kind sponsored parties. I gotta at least attend one of those when we're out there. But Mike, I'm gonna tee it up to you. Tell us about this conference. How did it come to be, and what are we going to be expecting here?
You can expect the single best SEO conference that has ever happened, hands down, bar none. Whatever the adjectives need to be, right? But how it came about was, for a few years there was nothing going on in New York City. There were no events, there were no meetups, there was nothing, right? And then we realized there was this 1 week in April where there was 3 events back to back. So there was a conference that someone had thrown. There was an event, the SEO FOMO event that Aleyda had thrown. And then there was one other event. And I was like, wait, this is SEO Week. And then I was like, you know what? We should make that a thing. And so as the year started, I reached out to Charlene Kate Events. Charlene, she's the person that's behind the scenes for a lot of the SEO events in our space. And she and I both have this, we both love things that are pretty fancy and cool and so on. And I was like, Charlene, I want to throw an event. I want it to be the best thing ever. I want it to have high production value. And in fact, Charlene used to run MozCon as well. So if you remember what MozCon used to be it was a very high production value event. And so I was like, okay, boom, let's do something like that in New York with the best speakers possible and just level it up. And also it's just a good time for us to do this because, we're really at this inflection point in search as a function of what's going on with generative AI. So yeah, it's going to be the best thing ever, basically.
Oh. The bar's set, folks. Hey, Garrett, I'm going to throw it to you before we bring in our first guest to talk about the conference. Garrett, you've had quite a hand in the conference up to now. Right, what are we going to be hearing about at the conference in broad strokes?
Well, the really cool thing is we have these thematic days, right? So, there are people who are getting tickets for the entire 4 days, but each day has a theme. So we're talking day 1 is the science. We're getting super technical across SEO, especially in the context of LLMs and AI and the overlap with SEO. Day 2 is all about psychology. Yours truly will be speaking there, but kind of what is the development of search behavior? How are people approaching both from the content creation side differently, but also the way that people are actually interacting with search engines different? Day 3 is the ecosystem. So that's a whole bunch of different verticals. We're talking everything from enterprise, e-commerce, local, you name it. Every specific niche is kind of tackled there. And then day 4 is the future. And that's where we're having the prognostication, the speculation of what comes next. Like to your point, everything is changing and we all have ideas, but some of the most amazing people in search are going to talk about like what they think will happen and how we can prepare for it as best we can.
Oh, it's fantastic, fantastic. There's a lot of things to be able to talk about, and we'd love to unpack a bit more about what you guys are going to talk about. But we have our first guest joining us right now. I want to be able to introduce to all of our listeners, and he's been on the show before. That's Will Critchlow. Will, thanks for joining us today, man.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you. Will is the founder and CEO of Search Pilot. Will, we're eager to hear your presentation on SEO Week. What's your first and foremost? What's your take on the conference?
Oh, I'm super excited to. I mean, everything about being back in New York City, a show run by these folks with the production values and enthusiasm that I know they're going to be bringing to it. And I think most of all, it's just an incredible lineup. Like I'm just excited to see all the other folks who are going to be in town for the show.
Absolutely. I mean, it is a top list of influencers and speakers and thought leaders in this space. Regarding the tech, Mike, just want to throw back over to you. I'm hearing some interesting things happen being discussed about the presentation and what we're going to see on stage. Can you say something quick about that?
Yeah, so it's like a a projection mapping environment where we have 3 screens that wrap around the entire space. And so there's just a lot of opportunity to really play with that and have these presentations be very tailored to the space. So you can bet, because I'm going to go first, I'm going to use the entirety of the option. And, a lot of our speakers are also very much leaning into it as well. So it's going to be a very immersive experience.
All right, so basically, Will, you've got 3 different decks to put together as opposed to one. Evidently, that's what I'm hearing.
Widescreen, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm kind of feeling that we're going to have some sort of matrix effect as we all start bending and moving towards the different screens. Hey, Will, we always love talking to you about e-commerce and, more importantly, testing in the SEO environment. Testing is going to be challenged more and more with the AI environment that we're in. But first and foremost, I just wanted to hear a little bit more about your presentation that you're going to be giving at SEO Week.
Yeah, so as you said, really focusing in on the e-commerce side of things. At Search Pilot, we work across a number of verticals, but e-com is probably the biggest area that we work in, and we've got some huge websites who have been running tons and tons of really interesting tests. So what I'm definitely going to bring is some tactical stuff. So some individual test results that have been interesting, exciting, and useful across those different customers, as well as trying to tease out some of the threads that we've seen and the lessons that we're learning more generally, especially, like you say, as we see regular search results become more and more AI powered, as well as, of course, all the other things, the AI overviews and the generative models themselves. And I think hopefully we can tie all of that together and come up with something that's like really useful, really interesting to a wide range of e-com and retail folks.
Absolutely. And for those of our audience that haven't experienced the testing environment, you certainly have a robust environment to be able to help help not only companies, but also marketing agencies to be able to navigate this new territory. I do have one question when it comes down to AI-driven search. I mean, Google AI overviews and zero-click searches. How is that reshaping e-commerce strategies, and what steps should businesses take to be able to adapt? I don't want to spill the candy on the table here, but I got to give the listeners a little bit more about what you're talking about.
That is a chunk of the whole presentation, but that's the crux of it. I think one of the things that I'll give a sneak preview on is we're seeing more and more product search in the mix. And so, we've seen stuff that used to be in the Google Shopping tab show up in the regular search results tab and those kinds of things. And one of the things that's really interesting there that we've been experimenting with, but to my knowledge, I haven't seen anybody else really talking about, is in Merchant Center, which is the area where you control the shopping feed, and which is often under the purview of paid teams. And so a lot of SEO teams don't even have access to that. there is analytics data that you can't get anywhere else. It's not in Search Console, it's not in your web analytics, and that includes impression data. And so back to that kind of zero-click end of things, that's showing that you're showing up more in those product carousels. You've probably seen the popular products, which is like often a 3x3 grid of little PDP listings.
Right.
And that stuff is all powered by the shopping feed, by the merchant center, and is kind of different, I think, to what a lot of traditional SEO work has focused on. And so, yeah, I got a chunk of brand new stuff around that I don't think nobody's seen our stuff before, and I haven't seen anybody else talking about that in that level of detail.
Fantastic. So, and what day are you going to be presenting, Will?
That's a great question. I'm on the Wednesday. Garrett's going to tell me if I'm wrong. Pretty sure that's right. Yeah, so on that day we're diving into, I think it's called the ecosystem. So the different kinds of SEO focus. Obviously, I'm taking the ecom side of things. And yeah, but I'm going to be there for a good chunk of the show, and looking forward to hearing all the other speakers as well.
Absolutely. And it all sews together. All these days sew together. And you certainly, for our listeners, don't want to miss the ecosystem. Well, it's always great to be able to speak with you. Any words of wisdom for our listeners, just to be able to act upon things that they're seeing right now as AI is starting to scoop up more and more of the merchant display and the product display out there?
Yeah. So I'm gonna be a little bit controversial in the challenging the premise. I think AI, I'm super bullish on the technology. I'm very excited about the future. I welcome our robot overlords, but I don't see, especially in e-com, I don't see behavior changing as fast as the popular wisdom might have you believe. We're all the geeks who are using this stuff day in, day out.
Sure.
The general searcher behavior is moving slower. I think Google has a chance to adapt and build on the fact that, they invented half this stuff, even if they're now going to be second or third or fourth movers in the space in some places. So I am more bullish on regular search, even than anything else. And I think also your biggest AI channel is Google. That's the drum I'm really beating. It's like, you may think you're getting tons of traffic from some of these other AI engines, but all of your Google traffic is becoming AI powered, not just the AI overview stuff. But let's give you a tactical thing. The biggest tactical stuff, I think, is about old school SEO visibility and indexability in the new world. And what I mean by that is, think about your robots.txt. So are you blocking these new crawlers? Do an audit for those kind of things. I think in e-commerce in particular, my advice is, for most folks, it's much less controversial. If you're a media property, you're probably already suing OpenAI. If you're in e-commerce, I think you want to be crawled by all of them, OpenAI, Claude, Perplexity, etc., because you want to be, when people ask about your stuff, you want them to get the details of your products, your pricing, your reviews, all that stuff. You want that from you. So let them crawl you. So check your robots.txt. And it's old school SEO. They don't execute JavaScript, most of them. And so, in fact, almost all of them. And so you need to make sure that the content you want indexed is present in the HTML.
And schema, right?
Schema is controversial. Yes, probably. So I'm bullish on schema generally. We've got some tests that I will be talking about in this. Bing, one of them, has talked about using schema, and Google has hinted at it. I don't know if I believe them. I also don't know if that's the future-proof, like if it's defensible, if that's a moat. In general, though, I like machine readability. So yeah, I'm on the schema bandwagon. But I'm going to be intrigued to run more tests in this area for sure.
It's fantastic. And you can see I'm just trying to extract some stuff from you before I even get there. But it's always great to be able to have you on the show and sharing this information. We got to swing back around and have you on. Absolutely. Gentlemen, any other thoughts about Will's presentation and the ecosystem that we're going to be talking about?
No, but I expect that there will be a basketball game and he will probably beat everyone.
Sweet.
I don't know about that, but I'm bringing my shoes.
Excellent. Will, thanks so much. We'll let you go here. Thanks for joining us in the SEO Week promo here.
Take it easy.
Another guest at SEO Week New York, Cindy Krum. Because when you go back and you look at the micro moments of search, it's I want to know, I want to go, I want to do, I want to buy. And that breaks down into the 4 ways that Google is monetizing search results right now. So I want to know is the regular Google search result. I want to go is a mapped search result, which is newly monetized and integrated with Merchant Center and whatever with ads and all these things. I want to know, I want to go, I want to buy. Obviously, we've seen crazy Merchant Center and shopping search results, and then Google Product Knowledge Graph. And then the other one is I want to do. That's the tough one, because that is, it's not as intuitive until you reverse it and you're like, well, what else is Google showing a lot of in the search result? And it's like, oh, duh, YouTube.
Also featuring Tom Critchlow.
I think Google said it best, right? Buckle up. I think I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell you what's next. I think we're in for a year of pretty dramatic change on Google's side in particular. They're facing pressures left, right, and center, not least from ChatGPT. If I had to kind of like pontificate or make some kind of like wild conjectures, I think that we'll see a lot more AI organized search results. So getting us out of the mold of just thinking about AI overviews with like a thing that is at the top of the page, but I think we'll see much more radical full page AI takeovers.
All right, so I'm going to bring over Lily Ray. She's the Vice President of SEO Strategy and Research at AMSIV. Lily, it's great to have you back on the show again.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here with you guys again. How's it going?
Yeah, it's very good, very good. Lily, it's great to be able to hear that you're going to be at SEO Week as well in New York. Certainly going to be covering some great information. Love to talk to you about the relationship between Google and publishers. But before anything else, let us know what you're going to be talking about at SEO Week.
For sure, yeah. I've been going on a deep dive through SEO history, including SEO history from before I started doing SEO, which was 15 years ago, and putting together a little bit of a summary of what's actually happened, what is the relationship between Google and search engines and SEOs over time, and how the cycle of that kind of relationship can inform, where we're going, what we should be focusing on, what we should think about going forward, and why that history matters.
That's the day. What day are you actually going to be presenting, Lily?
I think it's Thursday. Oh, actually Friday. I should check. I think I'm the last talk. So if it's Friday, that's the last day. Then it's Friday.
Oh, sweet.
Thursday.
Excellent.
My bad.
It's Thursday.
Thursday. Speaking on Thursday.
No worries. So history is fantastic. There's been a lot of controversial discussions going on about how publishers aren't being represented by Google. Especially I think the recent news about EU news organizations not being there was a test going on, and the Google was actually communicating that the revenue did not go up while they were actually indexing EU news articles. That came out, I think, about 2 weeks or so ago. And boy, that's a space where do we really want to have that conversation with Google that we can only be indexed if they can make money off us? Again, that's the principle behind any company, but man, it really does cut to the chase, doesn't it?
I mean, it's just one example of many, many examples over the last few years of tensions between Google and publishers really heating up. Publishers of all sizes, I think we've absolutely heard it from the small publishing community, but bigger news publishers as well. There've been so many changes over the last couple of years as it relates to like what you can and can't do as a news publisher in Google, and just the way that things are changing so much with like volatility in Google Discover, volatility in Google News, Google automating a lot more systems for how they include news publishers and news of Discover. It's been really challenging. And I think, a couple of years ago, we might have heard like, oh, Google's going after small publishers in a way that's not fair. But the reality is they're going after big publishers too. So it's definitely one category of SEO where I feel like, especially with the rise of AI answers, it's becoming increasingly tricky to compete and get visibility.
That said, there's been a lot of thoughts around Google's prioritization over user experience and its impact on publisher traffic and revenue models. I'm going to toss it to everybody on the panel here. some news released just recently from Martin Split about the fact that user experience may very well factor into indexing. Anybody want to take a swing at that particular thought, because it had us talking over here at the shop.
I think it makes sense. I mean, I think Google is turning up the dial on user interaction metrics all over the place. And so if they're seeing that like a pattern of URLs doesn't, meet user expectations, meaning that there's like high bounce, low time on page, things like that, then yeah, it makes sense for them to stop crawling it, because the web is just getting exponentially bigger as a function of generative AI. I think what people don't recognize is that ChatGPT is attacking Google on two fronts. One, it's the fact that it's a new modality for getting your information needs met than some people are liking more. And two, it's basically like a UGC attack on Google's index. And so they've got to get smarter in what they're indexing so that they don't end up flooded with a whole bunch of trash.
Absolutely, and they're trying. I mean, they had a report that what was the percentage of web spam that was out there that they keep on trying to get rid of. So it's a constant barrage, and this is just the new level of what they have to deal with. Lily, it's great to be able to see you're in New York natively. What's your take on the conference that's coming in for a full week? Give us your candid thoughts there.
I mean, it's amazing that it's actually coming together. Big props to you guys, Mike and Garrett and everybody. I mean, it's amazing. I think Mike and I have been half joking about something like this for like 5 or 7 years or something. So I'm so excited that it's actually taking place. And the speaker lineup is like one of the best I've ever seen of any conference in the
Stellar.
world. So super honored and excited to be a part of it.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. Any final thoughts for our listeners, additional prelude before you're speaking, your presentation?
No, I mean, I think that this is like the place to be, if you care about search and where search is going, the caliber of the speakers and the talks that are going to be happening at SEO Week, like you will learn everything there is to learn about what's happening in this space right now and how you need to prepare for the future.
That's right. That's right. So, agencies and companies alike that are listening to the podcast, get yourself to New York, April 28th through May 1st. It's going to be an incredible amount of information and some key takeaways from so many speakers. But there's also going to be a lot after the event that you want to pay attention to. Lily, thank you so much for your time today. Certainly appreciate your time, and we'll look forward to seeing you there in New York.
Of course, looking forward to seeing you guys. Thanks for
All
having
right.
me.
All right. You're more than welcome. More than welcome. All right. Just taking a break here real quick. We want to make sure that our listeners know what's going on, not only in New York, but what promo that we have as well. First and foremost, Garrett and Mike, thanks for inviting us, Edge Media Studios, to be able to join you in New York and SEO Week. It's going to be a great run of speakers. We'll be on location capturing each presentation each day for all 4 days. Something special in mind that we've got with those presentations. So you got to stay tuned for some upcoming announcements here. But more importantly than anything else, there's a giveaway that we've got happening here. First and foremost, the tickets are very affordable for such an event like this. $4.99 for a single day ticket, and you can pick up either science or psychology or ecosystem or future of SEO, any of those particular days for $4.99, but you can get a full ticket, full ride of all 4 days for $11.99. What an incredible value for that much information and that much talent. It's the largest amount of top SEOs and influencers coming together to discuss the most important topics for SEO. But we have a very cool offering from the team over at iPullRank. Check this out. We're giving away a full week ticket that's valued at $1,200, just like we talked about, to a lucky listener. To get into the drawing, go to the Edge of the Web LinkedIn account, follow and watch for that free giveaway post that we're going to be pushing out there as we drop the podcast. Share that on your feed, and you'll be entered into a random drawing for the ticket. We're going to run this for a week and then announce it on our LinkedIn page. So, guys, thank you so much for the offering there. Tickets are going fast. You want to tell us about how things are moving right now and ticket sales?
Yeah. I mean, there's been a whole lot of excitement around the event. We've been moving tickets, as the way you would expect. A lot of people just very interested. A lot of people bringing their whole team. So I definitely recommend anyone who's listening or watching this to get a ticket as soon as possible. And also, we've got a pretty amazing concert that we're throwing as well. I don't want to say who's going to be there, but trust me when I tell you, it's going to be a crazy event. Like, I didn't want to do just another, after party where people are just drinking and just like lollygagging around, or I don't know, going to play bowling or something. Like, I wanted to bring a concert. You're going to be in New York City, so I want to give you a New York City experience. So get your ticket. That's all I got.
Now, you're not going to even tell us what day that's on. That's a whole... that Nice. Appreciate it. Yeah, okay. It's on Wednesday, so you got to check it out. And you're not even going to sneak us a little peek at who's going to be performing, huh? It's all all right. All right. It's all clamped down. So if you're going to pick a day, right, maybe Wednesday would be a pretty sizable day, but you'd be missing Lily on Thursday. So you might as well go for the full week to be able to get the full immersion of what you guys are doing over there. So make sure that you check out what we're promoting. And if you miss the opportunity for that drawing with Edge of the Web, go over to seoweek.org to be able to purchase that ticket right then and there. Tickets are going fast, and again, it's April 28th, so it's this month right now.
Another guest at SEO Week New York, Wil Reynolds.
I think search is screwed. I think answers are alive and well. So I think if you have branded yourself as a search person and a search optimizer, then you have attached your ego and your kudos, your image, your self-image to I optimize for search. If you have attached yourself to, I want to help people find answers, it's a great time to be alive. Because then I'm not trying to defend randomly SEO or search engine stuff or looking for data points that go, see, people are still searching.
Also featuring Nick Eubanks.
Are people going to stop going to Google by the end of this year? Of course not. Absolutely not. I think the way that people use Google is changing very, very much. I think if anything, like my hunch is sort of the middle of the funnel is moving away from Google, where you used to be able to build a full funnel strategy and you could have Google as sort of the hub. And like, yes, you'd have other social components and own media components like an email list, something where you really actually own the contact information, you own the audience. And maybe there would be a YouTube component and paid media, and it would sort of all fit around, but you'd have search that you could support each stage of the funnel with the search function. And I think we're seeing that disappear, sort of evaporate like really, really quickly.
All right, I want to pivot over to the indomitable J.R. Oakes. J.R., he's the VP of Strategy over at Locomotive Agency. J.R., thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, great to be here. How are y'all? Hey,
We're good. We're good. Just plowing through some top level speakers that are going to be at SEO Week, and excited to be able to join you. And we also saw you over at Tech SEO Connect as you rolled that inaugural event out. So you had some good responses from that event, and that kind of gave some additional wind in the sails for SEO Week as well. In fact, Mike, you actually announced SEO Week there at Tech SEO, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Tech SEO Connect was one of the best shows that I was at last night. I'm really excited to have been involved, and we're also working on the next one. So excited for JR to be here too.
No, absolutely. So just a plug for Tech SEO Connect. That's coming up in December. That's December 5th, 4th and 5th. So make sure that you get your tickets in advance to that conference as well. That's techseoconnect.com. Some fantastic presentations that were there last year, and I'm sure it's just going to be stellar coming up this year. All right, so JR, tell us a little bit about your presentation at SEO Week.
I'm looking a lot at a lot that's going on from a language model perspective, and obviously we're seeing that kind of slow roll from being search retrieval to now search through ChatGPT, AI mode, AI overviews. And a lot of the rank tracking tools, I think, started looking at that and started thinking about, okay, rank tracking from a language model perspective.
Right.
What we've been trying to think about is just discoverability from a rank tracking perspective, right? So when you're looking at when we are SEOs, we think about like, transactional terms, and we think about like commercial terms, and we think about search facets and modifiers and things like that. So I really wanted to take a look at like across all the different models, right? And there's, I think we have access to something like 30 or 40 different models from the 3 different providers, like across all the models. And, how do they change from a brand discoverability perspective with respect to different search terms, different industries, different keyword modifiers, right? If we'd use top versus best, right, does that really change the type of brands that are returned for different searches, right? So we tried to normalize as much as possible, like same temperature, same number of tokens, but really hit it. When I think one of the early kind of takeaways is interesting is that like the earlier models, like ChatGPT 3.5 was very sparse in terms of the number of brands that it would generate with respect to some of these queries. And then you go all the way to some of the Gemini models, and it's spitting out like, 10, 20 different brands, very thorough. This is just the base models, not really getting into the deep research stuff, but just like what the model itself knows about. So we've seen even in like 2 years, just a lot higher propensity to going and discussing a lot of different brands with respect to some of these queries, and a lot more kind of authoritative over a lot of brands. So it's interesting.
Oh, it's very interesting. And you're certainly, I mean, just what you're noting anecdotally, you're seeing brand strength, right? And
Yes.
relevancy coming into play more and more in these LLM outputs. Let me ask you this one quick question. How should SEO professionals approach monitoring LLM outputs differently than the traditional search rankings, considering that it's generative synthetic responses as opposed to indexing existing content? How should we as SEO professionals, I mean, you've got some good access to 30 different models here. How should we be prepared to be able to see that output and be able to adjust accordingly with our strategies? Or is that part of what you're going to be talking about?
I mean, some of that, I think Mike laid down a mandate that he wants to see some actionable stuff here, and he wants like some stuff that people can play around with. So we're definitely wanting to come with that.
Oh,
And I appreciate that, but I have a love-hate relationship. I think with too much rank tracking, right? I think definitely brand sentiment is a huge area. Like what are models saying with respect to your brand, I think is really, really important. Um, uh, and I think monitoring at least some of your like main like keywords, your main like products and service categories. I think it's kind of weird if you're like just paying, because some of the models are insanely expensive now, right?
right.
So if you're paying like, $10,000 a month to rank track the same keywords that, you used to spend $100 for, in the rank tracking tools, I think that's a little insane, but, yeah.
Especially with the volatility of the SERP and everything is changing, that's not predictable at all anymore. So everything's being scrubbed, right? Everything, and it's like the tables are being upturned by AI influence there. Any final thoughts on that? I don't want to spill the beans on what you're presenting, but it's a big topic. It really is.
Well, there's so much beyond the model too, right? You have the model, and then you have like the deep research, you have the memory, you have like notes that are in there, you have prior searches, like you have so much that pollutes like what you're getting out of that, that it's really insane. I think we're wanting to just get a sense of more benchmark, right? And not something where we're feeling like that this is like truly like directional in terms of you can go operate based on this, right? From a keyword level, if that makes sense.
Roger that. Roger that. Garrett, I'm going to throw it to you because you're chomping at the bit to be able to chime in there on these thoughts. Because I also know you've been studying LLMs and brand and just the new search environment here. Any thoughts? Any questions you want to ask of Jr. before we let him go?
No, I love the way that JR is thinking about it because, and Mike's talked about this a lot in the past, there's been this obsession for years and years and years about rankings and like the simple like visibility of driving traffic. Whereas these LLMs and being forced to deal with AI overviews changes the way we need to think about the role of SEO. And so to JR, it's really just a question of you mentioned the brand sentiment is how are you feeling about traffic generation from LLM? Are you shifting the way that you're thinking about it and the value? Because that's been a very controversial topic in our industry right now.
We definitely see it shifting. On a lot of our clients, we're seeing the curve up, right? And I don't know how exponential that becomes. If it becomes exponential, then everybody's going to flip out, right? But right now, it's making that curve up, but it's not. It's still a small fraction of what Google and even what other channels are able to provide. So. But we see it strongly over indexing and like being the last step before conversion and leading to conversion and sign up. So I think you need to be very careful with how you're tracking it right now.
Absolutely. JR, any final thoughts before we let you go today on this subject? It is going to be predominant across all days, guys. We know this as a fact. This is a key essence of what's changing in our SEO environment. But JR's any wise words to leave us off before we come see you in New York?
No, but I would say come, because what Mike's putting together and team is amazing, looks amazing. Going without conferences for a number of years and then coming back and having what this beautiful orchestrated, curated conference that Mike's putting together and iPullRank team are putting together in New York is extremely exciting for me. So I really appreciate it. It's a lot of effort. I can see the effort, and I know it's going to be amazing.
Absolutely. Jared, thanks so much. We look forward to breaking bread with you whenever we're up in New York with you, and certainly listening to your presentation. So thanks so much for jumping on to the show today.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Another guest at SEO Week New York, Crystal Carter.
And I think that we're in a really, really interesting space. In the last, 4 or 5 months, we've seen search GPT blow up. We've seen, links becoming more commonplace on Gemini. They're a bit up and down with whether or not they have links all the time, but they're in there. And Copilot on 365 has links as well. And Perplexity continues to grow and is a fantastic tool, if I don't say so. And I think that the way that we position our brands in those tools is absolutely within the wheelhouse of an SEO, because all of those search-enabled LLMs have a search engine at the back of them to ground them so that they have more accurate information and to give them more detail.
Also featuring Aleyda Solis.
But then again, we can also now leverage also this structured data that Google has provided us to specify across them and make them easy, make them facilitate their lives to showcase us and to surface our more specific PDPs much more prominently for those more long tail queries that we know that have started to grow more and more in the last few years, and it's only continues to be growing. It's much more conversational, the search behavior that we're seeing for sure.
Pivot around to our last guest that's going to be coming on to the show here today. We're talking to Jori Ford. Jori, how are you doing today?
Quite well. How are you?
Very good. Nice to meet you, Jori. We saw you at Tech SEO Connect. You had a great presentation there, and for our listeners, she's the chief. You're more than welcome. She's the chief marketing and product officer over at Food Boss. Jori, are you excited for the conference coming up at the end of the month?
I'm more than excited. I mean, I'm hyped. Let's say that.
Excellent. So your talk at Tech SEO Connect was a lot about crawler and understanding when a crawler actually is coming, how it applies to SEO. You want to showcase a little bit about what you're going to be speaking about at SEO Week?
Absolutely. So again, I like crawlers, so I am going to be speaking regarding crawlers and what to look forward to when it relates to hybrid engine optimization. And what I mean by that is everybody's talking about SEO and GEO, and generative engine optimization also uses bots. So crawlers are going to be, for me, a source of truth for understanding how our sites are being digested, navigated, and understood by both the LLMs as well as from an SEO perspective. And I want us to take a constructive look at both ways to do that. So, long story short, I will again be talking about crawlers, but this time it'll be focused on a little bit more than just SEO.
We've got to be looking at the logs. We have to be seeing what's happening, and analytics doesn't give us nearly as much insight as the crawler logs do. Quick question, and not spilling the beans on your presentation. How can SEO professionals effectively use crawler logs to be able to understand the bot interactions with their website? And what kind of insights can we get from logs about optimizing content for search engines and the AI platforms? Boy, that's a big ass question right there. And I'm sorry, you can break it apart however you want to.
Hey, I got it. I got it. No, so how can SEO professionals use the log files? In my personal opinion, there's understanding the tests that you're running. A lot of SEOs are always looking for, what's the next quick hit I can do? What are the little fixes? But then being able to report on those fixes and how they impact the site becomes very difficult. But logs let us know. When did we make the change? What happened after the change? Who came to the site and visited to see that change? And if it got indexed, if it changed the results, etc. And so knowing what's happening on the site is really important. So I think that from that perspective, that's what every search engine professional should be using the logs for is to help qualify and quantify what they're doing, and telling and challenging people with, here's what's happening on the site exactly. And now we don't always get access to all the log files, right? So I think that Search Console is a good second to that. But the issue is the level of insight you get, right? So um, to further answer your question, because you said, alive, right? How can we break it apart? Um, from a how we use them and break it apart perspective. Let me confirm that that's what you were asking, right? So the first one was,
Absolutely.
how can search engine specialists use the log files? The second was, how can they break it apart and understand what's going on in them?
Actually, I'm going to insert this question, insert an addendum to the question. You forget about the remaining part.
Oh, okay.
Logs themselves are across all different platforms here, and we can get a lot or a little based on server configuration, but the bots are changing. Bot identification, crawler identification is changing at an exponential rate as well. We have so many different platforms, and I want to focus on the LLM side of things as well. How can we keep up with identifying all the different crawlers that are coming through our websites?
Well, so in the logs, that's the beauty of it, right? They name themselves. It's
Yep.
it's the easiest part. They're raising their hand and saying, "Hey, I visited." And I think the biggest issue is like you said, keeping up with the changes and challenges. Like we've seen recently where um, ChatGPT's AI agent has come named and unnamed. And so similar to what we had to do back in the day as SEOs, you have to do some log mining and do some reverse IP analysis to understand what IPs are hitting your site and why. If you use tools like Bright Data, it's easy to figure out, when people are using IP addresses that are meant for filtering and meant for crawling. When you check against Google, you can filter out Google. So my way of looking at it from an AI and LLM perspective is filter out everything we do know, and everything that you aren't aware of, you don't know. That's where you start mining it and looking for the AI agents. They're also going to be searching very specific types of pages and optimizations that you've done. The other thing that I've been looking at recently is creating an IP log related to LLMs that I know visit sites that I've used. I think a lot of people are trying to trend and do that right now. So I think building resources, making sure you check against what you know, so your known traffic, your known IPs, and then of course a lot of them are announcing themselves, so filtering them out and creating your own segmentation. And I think tools like Cloudflare are doing a really good job of helping people with
Right.
that.
And then finally, actually understanding the pattern that these different bots are actually, these different crawlers are actually what they're looking for as well gives you a whole nother of new insight, right?
The path analysis, that's the biggest part. And that's
Absolutely.
a lot about a lot of my talk is going to be about the path analysis and grouping how, where, and when the bots are following, your content. Are they following it after you make a change? Is it taking months for them to derive it? Are they getting it from other resources that aren't your own site? Because that's problematic, right? And a lot of
Yeah,
people don't
absolutely.
consider that. And I've learned that, especially if you've heard Mike has talked a lot about brand and LLMs, um, your brand presence doesn't always get owned by your brand, which is very unfortunate, right? You see that AI agents are crawling LinkedIn Pulse. Lily Ray just posted about this, right? LinkedIn
Yeah.
Pulse, Reddit, and Quora are owning brand voice. And if they're owning brand voice, are you in the right place at the right time so that the AI agent referral is coming to your source and then updating it correctly? And if not,
You've got concentric circles of influence around your brand, right? And you've got to be able to pay attention to what's going directly as well as what's doing a bank shot against these different
I like
these different areas.
that. Yeah.
Speaking of brand, Mike, I want to pull you back around here and talk about what we should really be understanding. I mean, Jori is going to be leading at the tip of the spear when we're talking about crawler analysis here, but we as SEOs have to understand this behavior at the server level more than ever before. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's really important to understand that for the very reasons that both Jory and Will touched on, is that, one, the generative AI crawlers, they don't cache. So they're going to crush your server in ways that Google is not, right? Because anytime a user makes a request that references your URL, they're going to go and get that URL in real time. So getting an understanding of where that's happening, and also thinking about like ways that you can insulate your server from that, so that you're not getting crushed by all that bot behavior. And also just generally understanding like what is most popular. There's no analytics for ChatGPT and what they're crawling or nothing like that. So you absolutely need those, to understand like what is actually happening. And then I think the last component of it is I think that people are going to realize that cloaking is actually okay in this environment. And before people start coming at me with pitchforks and all that, ChatGPT does not have guidelines, right? Like when you say cloaking is bad, it's because Google explicitly says don't do it. It's not against the law. It's not black hat. It's just the thing that Google says don't do. ChatGPT hasn't said don't do it. And so here's the thing. When you think about the fact that ChatGPT's crawlers are going to index your content and then use that to inform their language models, why would you want the content that is unique to you to be fed directly to a language model so one of your competitors just can quickly grab that and then you're playing this zero sum game around like your information game. So I think that people are going to realize like, hey, this block of copy is only available on our website, or this data point is only available on our website. And so for ChatGPT, we may cloak that section, but for Google, we won't. So I think we're going to see a lot of that happening, and really understanding what they're crawling, which user agents they're crawling with is going to help you understand where to do that. Because again, they're not going to render and they're not caching. So there's a lot of opportunity if you understand what that bot behavior is.
So you can kind of sculpt what relevant aspects you want chat or any of the LLM models to be able to pick up, but also hold your cards close to your chest and do that not only from search engine bots, but also the LLMs to be able to hide the cheese a little bit and be able to create more and more value for your own website in this new consumption model that we're in right now, right?
Well, just to be clear, I'm not saying do that for Google.
No,
because again, it's against Google guidelines, but
of
it's
course
not against ChatGPTs because there are none.
Claire. All right. Thank you very much. Jori, it's going to be great to be able to see your presentation. Any final thoughts about going out to the full SEO week in New York?
Honestly, I think that the lineup is killer. Anybody who's thinking about only going for one day, you're crazy. Uh, I'm excited that I get to stay for the whole week because you always learn something new from different peers, and there's so many rock stars that are in the lineup on each day. And Mike's done a great job of organizing it so that people who may not be super, super technical, or who may be more interested in, specifically AI, or they're looking at content optimization or leadership, it's organized in a way that gives you structure so you can pick a day. But I think that anybody who's only picking a single day, I won't call you foolish, but I think you're going to miss out on a lot.
They're going to be robbing themselves if they only pick one day, especially with the pricing model that they've got going on there. So I appreciate the champion of that, Jori. We certainly look forward to seeing you in New York at the end of the month. And thanks so much for bringing in the crawler concept, because we got to have that as a key pillar of understanding of where we are in the SEO world now, right?
I think we
So
forget that.
now I know. Uh, I'll share some stories with you whenever I see you next, because I've got a pretty interesting story about crawler logs in a library that hired me to actually analyze all of their 15 different libraries back about 20 years ago. I'll share that with you sometime. Yeah, that was fun.
Another guest at SEO Week New York, Ross Simmonds.
Now, people can grab ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, and have a conversation. And the conversation is scattered. They're going in and they're having these dialogues. And that is a discovery experience. And to me, I think search with the sole focus on Google is now shifting in a great way. Because now the search is happening on Reddit, the search is happening on TikTok, the search is happening on YouTube, through Claude, Perplexity, ChatGPT, all these different things. I'm overwhelmed, screams a lot of the folks who have traditionally exclusively thought about search in the lens of Google. But in reality, now we have to think like marketers.
Also featuring Devin Bramhall.
The first thing I would do is clear, to even start doing this, you have to clear the decks. You have to say, take all of this, brand, customer journey, throw it all in the trash can. Start with, who are you trying to sell to? Where are they? Where are they? Were they showing up for fun? Where are they showing up to create community? Where are they showing up? And don't worry about just anywhere they're showing up. It doesn't have to be oh, this is where everyone is. Really try to do that audit of where there might be subreddits over here with a portion of them, right?
Garrett and Mike, certainly appreciate bringing all this together and what you're doing at the event. Mike, I do want to ask you one thing. I wanted to pivot around to you real quick about relevance engineering here. I didn't get a chance to ask you about this before we jumped into our interviews, but I did want to swing back around and ask you about the concept of that, because you are kind of the tip of the spear with this discussion. Bring that to us for our listeners, just to kind of finish up our discussion and what we're going to be hearing at SEO Week. Lay it on me. What is relevance engineering?
Yeah, this is another one where the pitchforks are going to come out. So I don't think what we do anymore is SEO. That's not to say SEO is dead. You can certainly continue to do SEO the way that you've always done it, and you'll get diminishing returns and what have you. But I think what we're doing is actually something else, and what I'm calling it is relevance engineering. It's basically the intersection of information retrieval, digital PR, user experience, AI, and content strategy. And so notice I didn't say SEO, right?
Yep.
Because the way I look at it is SEO is not well defined. You can ask 10 different people that do SEO what they do. You'll get 10 different answers, right? You got people that are like, oh, I'm just a local SEO. I'm a content SEO. I'm a Python SEO, and so on. And what I'm saying is that doesn't work anymore for where we're at, because we're talking about multiple surfaces or channels at this point. And it's not just about hey, let me mess with these meta tags, or let me make this copy 500 words rather than 200 words. It's more technical than that. And it really requires an understanding of information retrieval, right? I think that SEO historically has been basically a power user of search engines, right? Like it's someone who knows like, oh, if I use a site colon search, that does something different. It's not someone who really knows the underpinnings of the internet and how it works. In some cases it is, and we call these people like, oh, that's a super technical SEO, and you're like, oh, I can just do my job without knowing that. And I feel like where we're at, specifically as it relates to generative AI, you can't really operate that way because it is very much about, relevance and figuring out like what's the most relevant copy for this keyword or for this need for the user. Because ultimately, that's what a search engine is doing. It is calculating the most relevant components, and then it's saying like, okay, this is the most relevant page. Cool. Let me look at the link graph. Let me compare that as well. Let me look at user interactions. Cool. I'm getting an indication that this is the most relevant across all these signals, and now I'm going to surface that. And so for generative AI or conversational search, it is more of that, like a more granular form of that, because it's not just looking at the full page, it's looking for the most relevant passage. And so to optimize for that, you're going to have to do all those different things. You can't just be like, hey, I did my title tags, I spam the web, voila, I'm number one. Like you have a very granular understanding of relevance. And then you have to have that relevance permeate across the web through a lot of these different efforts. So I think that's fundamentally a bigger thing that requires a more in-depth understanding than what we've called SEO. And then I also think that this is a good opportunity for us to reset as an industry because, first of all, the SEO space has a really bad reputation on all levels, on an industry level, on an academic level, so on and so forth. And if we keep saying like, hey, all this stuff is just SEO, we keep being the janitors of the web, right? Think about it. Like, why were we the people that were doing social metadata? Have you ever met a social media manager that did social metadata? No, but for whatever reason, we were doing it. And Google has been like, hey, there's this thing we want to have across the web, and they basically social engineer us to make it happen. Think about it, Core Web Vitals. We effectively were used by Google to make the web much faster.
Absolutely.
But our industry is not making more money. Our industry is still making far less money than any other channel, despite the fact that we are the biggest referral channel on the internet. So I feel like this is a good opportunity for us to like leave that behind and redefine what it is that we do in the lens of AI, which is considered a, frankly, more expensive thing where we can really get the value out of what it is that we do. So yeah, relevance engineering. I don't do it.
Relevance, and I'm going to throw a term out to you, and I wanted to bring Garrett in here because he's going to be diving into the psychology side of things. I'm talking about SEO Gestalt. That's what we're really talking about. We're talking about all of the parts, right? So hopefully we can make that a permanence, but it is literally all the different areas, not just the janitorial work on the SEO side, not only the PR side, but all of the relevance that is with each and every model, understanding a little bit more and dialing it in a little bit more. But it is the gestalt that we as SEOs have that maybe the other channels won't understand until we lead them there. How about that? Garrett, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, we still know that Google has 90% of market share, right? And that may or may not be changing anytime soon, but people will never stop finding ways to search. We always need information. So, in terms of like the SEO Gestalt, it's this convergence of these technologies, right? Like it was brought up earlier, the idea that, search engines are algorithms that have different signals that influence things. ChatGPT doesn't care about cloaking because it doesn't have those rules. So all these different platforms, the large language models operate by outputting probabilistic answers. So it's not the same anymore. And so SEOs needs to evolve anyway, because the way we need to think about what performance looks like, the value that it brings is changing. And ultimately, as more and more people use conversational search, instead of just looking for those traditional 10 blue links, the way that we search is going to change as you are able to just use natural language in your searches. Bloomberg reported that, Google's saying they're already seeing twice as long search queries pop up on average. So that's going to continue to happen, which adds this whole other element that Mike speaks to, which is the context of everything. What we bring to our searches, what Google knows about us, whether we're dealing with privacy or not, and ultimately how, as brands, as content creators, we need to make sure that our content will be surfaced for the people we're trying to target in the way that they're searching for us. Because the way you phrase a search is always got an element of bias to it. And so if you're speaking to that audience, you want to make sure that you're showing up there as opposed to not speaking their language, and then you get buried in the search and someone else is going to. So it's a completely different shift of this discipline.
It really is. Gentlemen, this is going to be a part and parcel of every day's conversations here in SEO Week, and we certainly applaud you guys for pulling all this together and doing something that we have not seen, I don't think, in the SEO industry. Mike, you can hold me to that, but I don't think we've actually seen 4 days running of a conference with this much, not only segmentation, but just the power players that are coming in. So kudos to you guys. I want to make sure that the listeners, as we wrap up here, understand who's coming to this. I'm going to go through a number, and I'm not going to be able to do everybody. I'm just going to show you a number of the speakers that are going to be there. Rand Fish is going to be there. Aleyda Solis is going to be there. Dawn Anderson is going to be there. Nick Eubanks, Bree Anderson, Greg Gifford, Annie Cushing, Ruth Burr-Reedy, Cindy Krum, Ross Simmonds, Wil Reynolds, and Crystal Carter, to just name probably about half of the speakers. What a great lineup, guys. We certainly do appreciate everything that you are putting together here. Lastly, gents, just want to thank you for the ticket that we're giving away for Edge of the Web. Want to make sure our listeners come back to it and make sure that they share the post on Edge of the Web linked in to their feed, and then they'll get actually in the running for that full 4-day ticket to SEO Week. And we're going to be announcing that a week from the time that we're dropping the show, which is going to be Thursday this week. Certainly going to be tapping everybody and tagging everybody as they're coming through. Any final words? Just a brief moment on just creating a conference like this. I just want to give you the stage here briefly. It's a big undertaking, Mike, and it's pretty, especially with a concert, man. That's next level shit right there. So give us a little bit of insight on how complicated something like this is.
Oh, it's definitely super complicated. There's a lot of, moving parts to it. There are things that I want to do that I'm just like, okay, we're doing it, but it's not how people do this stuff. So there is a bit of a stretch for most people involved. And you heard from JR, I said to the speakers, I'm like, I want you to come with it. I want this to be the best talk you ever give. So on every element of this, we are trying to do it better, different, and really lead where we're going as an industry with this event. So yeah, it's definitely not easy. And I hope people that are watching, listening, come and enjoy it.
Absolutely. Garrett, is Mike tearing his hair out yet?
No, it's fun, man. I mean, like, Zen Slack. So it's like it's the combination of, on the one hand, every other day, Mike's like, I got an idea, we got to do this, and then we make it happen. And on the other side, we see tickets coming in, like groups of like these big brands or agencies or tools, and we're just like, oh, they're gonna be there, they're gonna be there, they're gonna be there. So a lot of it is really, really fun. And then I'm a fan as well. Like, these are people, I did MozCon last summer, and just getting to connect with all these great people in the industry. So like getting a chance to meet with people I've engaged with over the past, years and years and years. It's, Mike knows all these people. Everyone who's presenting here has in some way encountered him and had a great, interaction. Like, I'm just as a fan excited to talk to people. But I will say, if you are part of a brand that has any uncertainty about what to do next, this is the conference to be at, because everyone, like, it's a diverse opinions, but everyone is giving you a path to what the heck you should do, because most people don't know. Like a lot of us are in the dark in this industry of what to do. There's a lot of confusion and uncertainty. And so if you want to see what people are thinking, that's why you got to be here.
We're all doing echolocation. That's the industry of SEO to begin with, right? We're completely pinging off and finding what works, what doesn't. You have the opportunity, everybody who's listening, to be able to hear these thoughts in one conference room over 4 days, to be able to really unpack and come back with not only tactical, but philosophical pivots that you can make with your marketing efforts. So again, kudos to you guys. We'll let you go. We're still going to be promoting you guys as soon as we can, as soon as we get this thing cooked. But thanks for including us as well. We're really excited to be with you guys in New York.
Yeah, we couldn't do this without you guys. I mean, we love what you guys do. Like this show is a high production value idea. So like, you know, it's we're learning from what you guys do. We definitely want you involved.
I can't throw this on 3 screens though, Mike. I'm just gonna say we're gonna draw the line. I got to figure out how we're gonna capture 3 bloody screens. So we'll talk logistics on that. But thanks so much for the accolades there, and we'll see you at the end of the month, man.
Cool,
gents. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. All right.
Great. Thanks, Aaron.
You're welcome. Thanks for listening, and make sure that you check out the YouTube. If you just heard the podcast, jump over there. You got a lot of great speakers that are on the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can, hey, you know what? We love the feedback on the YouTube channel as well as on our different review channels. So if you're feeling up to it today, give us a review on ratethispodcast.com/edge. Let us know about what you thought about this show, as well as, hey, are you going to SEO Week? Let us know. Make sure you check out the Edge of the Web LinkedIn post whenever we have that free ticket available, and we'll tag you as soon as we have that drawing. Again, thanks to our sponsors who are always backing the show. Couldn't do this without you. From all of us over at Edge of the Web and Edge Media Studios, stay safe, stay well, and do not be a piece of cyber driftwood. We'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.